Hey, what's up everybody? It's Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome to another MX Simulator official track gameplay, round number 11 of the 2018 Monster Energy Supercross series from St. Louis. I'm sorry, my controller just disconnected and reconnected, so that's why I fell in the first corner. But yeah, it's St. Louis, and this is a pretty good track in my opinion. It's got a lot of pretty long rhythm sections to work with. A nice long whoop section. In general, it just seems like a pretty good track, and I'm just going to ride it terribly this whole video, of course, but MXS CMF track crew, I think, did a pretty good job on this one. I feel like they made the dirt decal just like a little bit too light for St. Louis. Like, I think it should be maybe a little bit darker. My controller literally just unplugged and replugged in as I was going over that jump. Doing the same thing there. I have this problem right now where the controller that I'm using to play Sim feels so comfortable to play Sim, like it just feels normal to me. And I bought a new controller, Xbox 360 controller, and I'm absolutely terrible with it. I think it's just a little bit too sticky, like the stick hasn't broken in yet or whatever you want to call it, so I am just no good with it. I've finally reverted back to just using the one I was using before I bought this new one, and that's why it keeps unplugging and replugging in. That's why I was gonna get a new one to begin with, because this one was having issues with connectivity. It's got a frayed wire on it, so that's appearing to be a problem. I don't know what the heck that noise was just now. I guess my controller's just gonna disconnect and reconnect this whole video, huh? But yeah, this is St. Louis. I have the most experience on this track, more than any other track this year, because it was a track that I built already for the SYS test track, which I will at some point release. I built this track in early December, I think it was, that I ended up building it on the SYS test track. And so everybody on SYS Racing is more or less had the opportunity to ride this track up until this point, and obviously myself, I know this track pretty well because I played it a lot on that track that I built. This section, I feel like in general, like the whole thing is a little bit different feeling than the one I built. These guys also didn't put the camel hump tabletop, which I did on my track, but they didn't put it on theirs. I think they're just assuming that it's not going to happen this weekend because at Tampa they didn't have one when on the track map it showed it, and what I'm talking about is in that first rhythm section there's a tabletop 3 jumps from the end that's just a tabletop, whereas on the track map it's supposed to be a camel hump, but obviously they didn't use it in Tampa, so I guess these guys thought maybe they won't use it again this weekend, and that's why they don't have it. But yeah, it's a pretty good track in my opinion. Like I said, it's busy, so I think it's going to create some good racing this weekend, and I'll divulge into my thoughts on real life racing this weekend and who I think is going to do what in a moment. But I just feel like it provides a lot of good different rhythm sections. That first lane seems like there's probably going to be like 2 or 3 different ways you could go through it. Probably is only going to be 1 or maybe even 2 fast ways to go through it that those guys will figure out, but right now it seems pretty open-ended. Like there's a lot of different options there. The rest of the track's pretty straightforward. I feel like after the finish line on, it's going to be, I wouldn't say one-lined, but at least pretty like straightforward. Nothing special is going to be done. Like nobody's going to bust a quad out of nowhere, unless maybe they get it out of this corner up here. On the SYS track that I built, you can come through this corner and quad out of this occasionally, but the rut has to be built up pretty good. I don't think you can do that on this track. And they built this 353 pretty like low-ended, so it's kind of tough to get a good drive there. Can I 3 in right here? Yes, I can. So you go 3, 3, and then 4. That's exactly the good line that I built on the Monster Energy Supercross game replica that I built of this. That was actually a pretty good lap. I felt like I was at least doing mostly the normal lines, 54.7. It's not too shabby. But yeah, this track, it's jumpy. St. Louis usually has pretty good dirt, so this is probably going to be one of the least like breakdown-y type of track we'll see this year, although it has in the past before gotten a little deep. But usually St. Louis has pretty good dirt, so I think the track will hold up pretty well. And I don't know, like I talked about it in the Monster Energy Supercross video that I did on this track, but I just got a hunch about Anderson this weekend. I don't know what it is. I wouldn't necessarily say this track like ultimately suits his style or anything crazy, but I just have this odd feeling that he's gonna do really well this weekend, and I think he could win this one this weekend. So, sorry, I'm trying to fix this whole frayed wire situation on the fly. Oh, now it's just completely disconnected. What just happened? Sorry, my bad. I'll probably cut that part of the video. Oh my goodness, now it's disconnecting and reconnecting on the fly. Oh my gosh. Alright, sorry. I probably just cut the video right there because my controller wigged out and disconnected, reconnected 100 times. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I really just feel like something's going to click with Anderson this weekend. I think it might have a little bit to do with having a bad weekend last weekend. Like, it might ignite the fire a little bit, and he might come out and be like, all right, I really want to, like, you know, assert my dominance in this series a little bit. So I think a bad weekend last weekend could potentially lead into a good weekend for him this weekend. I got him winning. I do. I think that because of that, I have to say that something's going to go wrong with Tomac, because Tomac is getting to this point of crash or win. But I don't think Tomac's going to get hurt or anything crazy. I just think he's going to be a little bit off. He might have a fall, or he might have a bad start. I got Anderson winning. I got Musquin second. And Tomac probably third. Although you never know what's going to happen with Brayton now that he's got to win, right? But yeah, that's kind of my picks for 450s. I just need anything good to happen fantasy league-wise for me. I've just had a horrendous time in these races that are not the Triple Crown events. Like the Triple Crown, it's fine. Like, I can pick my team that I know is already in the main event. Getting 8 guys into the main event on my PulpMX fantasy team is pretty much like the hardest thing ever. It's like it's like me bowling, I guess would be the right term to put there, because I'm not very good at bowling. But occasionally I'll throw it down the center and get a strike. That's pretty much what I'm doing right now with fantasy. Each week I pick guys and I'm like, yeah, they should be decent enough to get into the main event. Although for some reason I made the mistake of picking Jerry Robin this past week. And like, I love Jerry. Like, he's really cool. I've talked to him a lot before, and super nice guy. But he is just the ultimate fantasy motocross killer, and I'm out. I'm done. Made a tweet about that I just can't do it anymore, Jerry. I'm sorry. I love you, but you're killing me. Second in the LCQ and just dumps it by himself. I was throwing things at the TV. Not that bad, but it was a bit of a bummer. But seriously, fantasy motocross, for those of you that, or fantasy supercross in this case, for those of you that don't play it or have never seen it before, it's something I really would recommend at least trying out, because it's it's frustrating, yes, but it also does this really awesome job of like getting you to pay attention to like the mid pack. So while there's like some racing going on up front and the broadcast is refusing to show anything going on in the middle of the pack, you'll keep your eyes on timing and scoring a little bit more. You'll want to be cheering for guys that you normally wouldn't care about. I don't know. I think fantasy's pretty cool. Definitely made me pay a little bit more attention this past week to Jerry Robin, of course, but in general, I end up picking guys that I wouldn't normally pay that much attention to be honest with you. Oh boy, let's see, what else can I talk about? 250 class going into this weekend. I think in the Monster Energy Supercross video I did, I picked Jordan Smith to win this weekend. I'm going to go ahead and stick by that. He seemed really, really confident at Daytona. Like, it seemed like he had kind of found his old self a little bit. It took him a little bit. Like, the beginning of the year was not very good, honestly. Like, he just wasn't feeling it or something. I don't know what it was. But this past week at Daytona, he seemed to kind of find that old Jordan Smith groove that he had. And honestly, he looked really good. I was going to try to triple from the outside right there. I don't even know what you do. Triple, quad maybe? So I Jordan Smith winning this weekend, and behind that, I think it's going to be Osborne and Faulkner. I think they're going to go 2-3. What order they're going to finish in, boy, I have no idea. But honestly, this whole drama between Osborne and Faulkner has really kind of thrown Jordan Smith like under the radar, I would say. He wasn't having that great of a beginning of the season, like that's without question. But he wasn't having a bad enough beginning of his 250 East campaign that it took him out of the title, and so that win last week, he's only 8 points down on the championship leaders, which are Osborne and Faulkner tied. This really is still like a 3-horse race for this championship. It's not just down to Osborne and Faulkner, and I mean we still have the East-West shootout in Indy coming up soon, and then there's going to be another East-West shootout. There's going to be another Triple Crown even at which one is that going to be? It's like Foxborough maybe or something is the last Triple Crown. But it is an East round is the last Triple Crown, so there's still wild cards to be dealt in this 250 class. And while a couple weeks ago, or like last week even, I would have said it's probably down to Osborne and Faulkner, I don't know. Like I just really have a good feeling about Jordan Smith right now. Like that win at Daytona was impressive enough to me that I was like, okay, I think he's found that flow again. He's getting his confidence back. I mean, you remember last year he won his first race, and he kind of went on a little bit of a tear. He won at Detroit, like he straight up block passed Savacci to win at Detroit. A couple other like really good races shining through for him. Like I feel like he's really like kind of a confidence guy, and I hate using that term, but I think it's really true for him. He seems to find another gear once he has the knowledge within himself that he can win. And you saw it at Daytona. He realized he had the speed, went out there, got the whole shot, or got a good start, which helped. And then even with Jeremy Martin, who's a 2-time national motocross champion, behind him at Daytona, he didn't crack under the pressure even a little bit. Like he stayed true and kept putting in consistent laps. J Mart couldn't catch him. I don't know. Got good feelings about Jordan Smith. Let's see, what else can I talk about? Can we stop and talk about Brandon Hartranft for a minute? Because this dude is kind of getting impressive. Like he obviously had that whole issue where he technically finished, I think it was 7th at the opener, but because he cut the whole first corner, he got pushed back to 19th, and then he missed the main at Tampa, kind of like an idiot. But like he's been like quietly solid, I feel like, for a guy that isn't really like, okay, yeah, Cycle Trader Rock River is a good team. They have factory support from Yamaha on some level, but I don't know, like you would expect maybe like a rookie on Star Racing Yamaha to be doing about as good as Hartranft is doing, but he's like, I feel like outshining expectations a little bit. And he is not going to get that ride on the Star Racing Yamaha. That's actually going to Thomas Ramette, who is a multi-time, I believe, French Supercross champion. He's won the UK Arena Cross Series before, I believe, as well. I have no idea how that came about, but Star Racing needed riders because Colt Nichols broke his humerus, I believe. And then we know the Ferrandis situation with him coming up short on that triple, broken jaw, broken arm. So they were without riders on the East Coast. They needed someone to fill the spot. So obviously, most people would go, well, why not Hartranft? He's been showing really well. He's done great these past couple of weeks. He was really fast at the first couple of rounds. Seems like a good fit to me. But because of what I just said about Cycle Trader being like a factory-backed team, and then they also have their own title sponsor with Cycle Trader and that whole deal, they really can't like afford to give up Hartranft to go ride for the quote-unquote factory team. They have sponsor obligations that they need to stick by. They signed Hartranft, so they're going to stick with him. And so Star Racing really had to venture out. Like Will Hahn is the team manager at Star Racing Yamaha right now. And there was rumors legitimately floating around like, oh my gosh, Will Hahn is going to race again in the 250 class for Star Yamaha. Obviously he can't because he won a 250 title in 2013, and because of the way the rules work and stuff, he is like officially forever pointed out of the 250 class. But Supposedly he was trying to get into that, like he was trying to say like, hey, I've been retired, can't I just ride, you know, I'm not gonna win, whatever. But they were just like, no, like, the rules are rules. So they had to go find somebody else. And I also read that they actually asked, but he declined, Dan Reardon, who was on the team last year, if you remember. He's in Monster Energy Supercross, the game on Star Racing Yamaha. But he apparently declined. Not sure what for. I would assume it's because the Aussie MX Nationals are going on right now, or they're about to start, right? So he would want to be in the mix with that. Like, he just got back racing the UK Arena Cross Series. I guess probably wants like his time off. So gets the time off, gets ready for the Aussie Nats, all that business. And I think he also is riding for Kawasaki right now. So going to Yamaha would kind of be a bit of a slap in the face for that team that he's on. But yeah, so that's how it fell. Thomas Vermette filling in, Star Racing Yamaha. I don't think anything else is changing. J-Mart is the only Geico Honda rider that is going to be out there. I think McAdoo is still injured enough, and then obviously Hampshire is going to be out for the year with his injuries at Daytona. So not too sure if they're going to think about a fill-in there. But yeah, keep an eye out for those guys this weekend. Really curious to see how Vermette does with full factory support, basically. And yeah, I have Jordan Smith and I have Jason Anderson winning this weekend. Would love to hear your guys' picks, of course, and any thoughts or opinions you wish to add to this video. And of course, go ahead and try out the track. Download it in the description below. This is round number 11, St. Louis in MX Simulator. But thanks for watching another video here on the channel. I am Kellen, and I will see you guys in the next one.